Good morning, dear Stitchers. It's Judy with JBW Designs, and I want to welcome you back to my Flosstube channel. This is episode number 98, and it is Monday, October 27th, which is a very strange day for me to be recording. I had the best of intentions. I had everything set up for last Friday, and then things fell apart. So I'm going to start again, and hopefully all will work out. And I have a lot to tell you about this time. My husband and I took a trip to Virginia. I want to tell you about that because it was just wonderful. We took another trip up north to Suttons Bay in Michigan, so I will include that all in my talk today. So the first thing I always want to do is to thank you once again for being such wonderful, joyful people to have in my life. You are so consistent in watching and commenting, and I just love reading your notes. So I had quite a few comments from the last video, and I thought the first thing I would do is to address those, answer some questions, and then I'm going to tell you about some kindness that we spread around, and then I will get to retreat and other information. So I have a whole list of topics today. Let's see, the first question I had was from Jay Forster, and she asked what my favorite time period was as a designer. And that was hard because I've been doing it for so long, but the first thing that came to mind is I am loving designing right now, even though I'm probably near the end of my career. I just am so enjoying it. Things have changed so much since I started. The fibers and the fabrics that are available, and the joy of watching other stitchers and meeting them at retreats, it's just wonderful. So I would say right now. Then another viewer asked to see the Twas the Night series and the Christmas Village series. So in my title today, I mentioned that I was going to show some vintage Christmas JBW designs. So I found those to share with you, and then I found a few others that I hope you'll enjoy seeing. Lorraine said to me, this was amazing, she is stitching ornaments for 17 grandchildren, which is just staggering. And she asked her grandchildren to choose one, and I'm not sure what all they chose, if they chose the same one or not, but she said 16 out of the 17 chose one of mine. So Lorraine, I feel very honored, and I can't wait to see all your finishes. And she also asked for hints on finishing a snowman. So I would love to address that. I said to her, let me know which snowman you're working for, and in a future video I will talk about some possibilities on how to finish that shape. And then let's see, what was the next one? Oh, I know. I had a note from Pat at Deer Hill Farm Cross Stitch, and I had mentioned her shop as my shop of the week in the last video, and she wrote to thank me, and I thought it shows you what a little bit of kindness can do. She said she's been in business, I think it was for 31 years, and it's the first time that anyone has mentioned her shop. And I thought, oh, I'm so glad that I was the first, but then also kind of saddened that other people haven't talked about her shop because she's been in business a long, long time. So thank you, Pat. And then I also got a note from Holly of Mrs. Jones Stitches, who is on Instagram, and she has her own Flosstube. And she said she was watching my video, and she was so surprised when she heard her name mentioned, because she has been doing conversions of one of my designs, and I'm not sure if she's going to do others, maybe in the future. But she did Fleur de Noel, and I don't think, let's see, I grabbed a pile of things to show you. No, that's not the right one. I'm not sure if it's in one of my piles or not. If I come across it, I'll show it to you. But anyhow, she did a beautiful conversion of the colors, and instead of doing Christmas colors, or the pink that I had chosen, she did it all in pastels, and it's just lovely. So what I wanted to tell you about Holly is that she now has an Instagram. She has an Instagram account. She has an Etsy account where she is, you can buy a PDF file of her conversions of the designs that she's been stitching. So if that's something you're interested in getting a hold of, I would go to her Etsy shop. And again, that's Mrs. Jones Stitches. So, and my husband was, I don't know how he overheard this, but he said, "You have made the most amazing friends through Facebook." And I said, "You're right. It really, truly is amazing." So the first thing that I want to talk about is the retreat that I went to. And I mentioned that I was going someplace, but I didn't want to spill the beans before the retreat happened. So I was at Dying to Stitch in Virginia Beach, Virginia, and it was the most fabulous few days. I'll tell you about how it all came about. Anne contacted me about a year ago and asked if I would be the lunchtime speaker. And I said, "Oh, that's really an honor. I'd love to do that." Now, I was, Brenda Gervais was the featured designer at the retreat, and I got a chance to meet and talk with her, which was great. We see each other at market once a year, but we never really get a chance to just sit and talk about our business and our lives, etc. So we had a chance on Friday to do that, and then we also, actually we had two chances because we were able to go out to lunch together with another attendee. So that was just great. And of course, people absolutely love her designs and her presentation, and I'm sure if you've watched other videos you will be able to see what she released, because as usual it's beautiful. So the wonderful thing about going to retreats is I never know who do I know that's going to be there. And so I walked into breakfast the first morning, my husband and I did, and sitting at the table right there were Linnie and Roberta of the Sable Stitchers. And I watched their channel, of course, but I had never met them in person. So that was so much fun to meet them and just chat for a little bit. And there were quite a few shop owners at this retreat, which I was surprised about, but then I understand. One was Pam and Kim of Tomorrow's Heirlooms in Illinois, and they said for them it's a busman's holiday to get away, to take a class with a well-known designer, and so that was fun to see them. Also there was Teresa and her husband Brian, and they own two businesses actually, Needle Bling, which is the fabric dyeing company, and they also own a shop in Wisconsin called the Black Cat Stitchery. So that was fun to see both of them again. And then the last day, another gal came up to me and she said, "I don't know if you remember me." She said, "I'm a new shop." And the name of her shop is called Born to Stitch, and I think it's in New Jersey. You know what? I'll look that up and I'll make a note below to write that in my notes for you. Anyhow, I asked her how it was going, and she said, "Oh, it's getting better every day." So we always love to hear about new shops. So the first day of the retreat was Friday, and all the attendees, there were 125, came in to the shop, and I want to tell you a little bit about the shop because it is amazing. Actually, Dying to Stitch is really a part of two businesses also. So they own R&R Reproductions, which is the fabric dyeing part of their business, and Pat, one of the co-owners, is mainly in charge of the dyeing, and then Anne is the other owner, and she's mainly in charge of the shop. Well, the shop is amazing. They have hundreds of framed models on the wall, every fiber you could want, books galore. And so the shop owners were just in heaven, or not the shop owners, the attendees were just in heaven that day, because once they got their name tags and entered the shop, They could meet Brenda and I in person. They could shop. They could buy some of Brenda's new patterns. And we were there for quite a while. I think we were there for over 4 hours. And it was just fun to stand while they were in line waiting to pay and meet people, talk to people who I've met already. I heard some amazing stories. One of them that I'll mention, I'll just tell you about this one, was, I don't know if you remember, but about a year ago, this was Jenny. I had heard that she was at a retreat, and she lives in Florida, and a hurricane had come into their area of Florida and had destroyed her house. And it was another Flosstuber who kind of told us about this and said, what can we do for her? And we said, let's send her Christmas ornaments that we've made. So I thought, well, I can do that. I have hundreds of finished ornaments. So I sent her a few ornaments, and lo and behold, she was at the retreat. And we had so much fun. I'd never met her in person, just chatting, and so that was just delightful. It is really, truly a joy to meet stitchers in person, new and ones that I've met before. So the funniest question that I had the first day I got there, I'm sorry I forgot to hang up my phone. Oh gosh, let me get up and take care of that. I always try to remember all these things beforehand, but sometimes it doesn't happen. So where was I? So the funniest question I had, and it was the first morning, somebody said to me, what are the colors of the walls in your office? And I just laughed because it's a funny little story about this paint color. So our whole house is painted in this color. It's called sailcloth. I meant to look it up. I think it's a Sherwin-Williams paint. But the funny thing about this is, in here, it looks pale green, and I've never figured out why. Is it the windows, the light coming in through the windows? It must be that. Because in the other rooms of the house that are downstairs, it looks just very creamy. So I thought that was a cute question. So then we did that Saturday or Friday. We talked to the attendees, and then on Saturday, Brenda taught a class in the morning. She taught a class in the afternoon, and then we had a lovely lunch. The retreat took place at a country club in Chesapeake, which was just beautiful. I should post a picture of the dining room. It was so lovely. I actually thought that it was set up for a wedding. When I first walked in, I thought, oh, this looks like a wedding. No, it was our luncheon. It was just lovely. So before I did my talk, we had our lunch. I had set up my trunk show ahead of time, and a really cute thing happened. A lot of times, attendees know the name of your company, but they've never met you before, so they don't really know, what you look like or who you are. So I walked into the dining room, and I was finishing my preparation, and this gal came really flying up to me, and she said, I just love your models. Oh, they're so gorgeous. What a way to start the afternoon, right? So that was fun. So I have a funny story to tell you. After lunch, Ann and Pat gave out door prizes, and I kept thinking, gosh, I have to start my talk in a few minutes. I must get over to the restroom and look at my teeth. Do I have spinach in my teeth? All of those things. So just before I was due to start talking, I exited the room. I ran out the door. I ran down the hall. I opened a door, and I looked around, and I thought, where are the stalls? Well, you can guess what happened. I had walked into the men's restroom. Thankfully, no one was in there, but you have never seen a faster exit in your life than me leaving that restroom and finding one that was the right one. So that was the start of my talk, being a little rattled, of course. So I just talked about how I started my business. I think the interesting thing is, I'm sure many of us who are designers never intended to be designers. It just evolved over the years, and that's what happened with me. So I kind of talked about the evolution of how I got to that point, and then I showed quite a few of my patterns, and I talked about what the inspiration was for the patterns, and then we had questions. So, and then the last thing I did, let's see if I can find it. I always have piles everywhere, don't I? Is that I decided, this is quite a mess here, that I was going to chart something free to give to the attendees. And Ann and Pat just love my round designs. I think they've got models of almost every one. So I thought, what better thing to do for them as a free chart for their guests was to design something in the round. So I can just show you part of what I gave away. I called it Seaside in the Round. I finished it over 2 on 36 and over 1 on 25. And then we passed out the patterns for all the people who were there, and then I decided one nice thing to do would be to give away my models. So before we passed out all the patterns, I put stickers on the backs of 2 of them. And then, so I just said, well, look on the back of your pattern. And the neat thing was that one of the attendees, actually it was her first time at a retreat, and I think she was from Toronto, and she won one of the models. Both the people who won were just so delighted, and then they came up to get them, and they couldn't decide, who should get each one, so they finally did. So that was fun. So I received some wonderful gifts at the show, which I was not expecting. Let's see if I can, I'm going to have to reach into my bag here, I'm sorry. There are a couple things in here that I want to show you. They're so darling. All right, so let me get a tag here. There's a tag that goes with this one, and I want to acknowledge who it's from. So this was from Jane, and she made this darling spool for me. I can't wait to put it out in my office, which says, can you see, JW, with a little border. It's just so sweet. So that will go in one of my collections. And then Linnie of the Sable Stitchers gave me this darling little gift bag with a crocheted little flower on it. And you can see there's ribbons and a scissor fob and buttons. It was just so sweet. I wasn't expecting actually to receive gifts, because usually that happens more with your table mates. And then this was from Jenny, who I talked about earlier, and she gave me this wonderful little key fob, which I actually think I might use with cards to hold my floss. And then the last thing I received was from Deanna, and I know the Sable Stitchers showed this too. This is a little frog to put all your little orts in, and she gave me all kinds of little tools and floss cards. And I want to tell you the name of her company. Oh, there's 2 other things. Look at this. She made me a little magnet, and she stitched the little frog. Isn't that precious? So she has a YouTube channel, and she has an Etsy shop, and I will include those below. And the name of her company is Vintage Cottage Stitchers. And so I will include that, as I say, in my notes below. So I thought that was really sweet. And then she gave me this little shaker with holes in it, and you can put your used needles in there. So I just thought all of my gifts, oh, I was so delighted. Oh, there's one more. And then all of the attendees received a project bag. Can you imagine? This was from Tracy. She made 125 project bags. And not only that, there were several little accessories on the inside. And each project bag was made in a different fabric. I want to show you this. I just love it, with coordinating fabrics. Isn't that wonderful? So, Tracy, thank you. I just thank you to all of you. It was just a joy to be there. All right, moving on to my next topic. So I always like to show you, all right, this pile does not want to move. All right, let's do it in stages here. Oh my, it's quite a mess, isn't it? All right, let's clean this up a little bit, and hopefully that I can do this in some order. We'll see how it goes. So I always like to show you pictures of what people have sent to me. And let me backtrack. I hope you're stitching and doing something, because I'm just jabbering on and on. Something fun while you're watching. One lady told me one day, she said, she must have had earbuds in or something. She said, I was just cleaning while you were talking. I thought, well, that's a good way to help the time go by. So this first picture I have is from Patty, and I've met Patty in the past, and she stitched Tidings of Joy in red on white, and I loved seeing that. I think it might have been on Flosstube actually, and so I pulled out the pattern for this one. This was a design quite a few, 10 years ago, and I stitched it in red on white over one, of course, and just like Patty, over two. So that was, let's see, now I have to figure out where can I pile everything here. And then the next one, I wanted to tell you that booklet, Tidings of Joy, actually has, it will appear in my disorganization here. There are two other patterns that are kind of in that series. One is called Oh Christmas Tree, and the other is called Joyeux Noel. And they're all very similar, worked on white on red or red on white, and they just use all kinds of Christmas motifs. So I thought you might be interested in that as we're approaching Christmas. This is, I got pictures from her the last time I did a video. Rebecca, you're doing just amazing work. So this is from Rebecca, and she took her round and she put a design on each side of it. So on one side she put stitching in the round. I don't know if you can see that or not. And on the other side she did around Britain. And I thought, oh, what a clever idea. You always give me such good ideas. And then we had quite a few pictures. Let's see if I can find the book for it, from one of my new designs. And I thought this was quite cute. So I get an email this last week, or a message, and this was I think it was Cheryl that's told me this. She said, I'm stitching your autumn harvest. And she said, you told us there were letters, an alphabet in this design, but she said, I couldn't find it anywhere. So she said, it wasn't until I got to about this point that she started to see, can you see the A, the B, the C? They're just tucked in below the pumpkins to look like grass. So it really is a hidden alphabet. So Cheryl sent a picture of hers. I think Donna sent a picture of hers, which she said it might have been a 20 count linen. She wasn't sure. And then, let's see, I have a third picture. Oh, this was from Kathy, and she actually had it all mounted and framed. So thank you all for doing that and for telling me about it. I think it's always so interesting. This picture I forgot to write down, which I sometimes do, who sent me this photo. So this is Flights of Fancy. And I just want to say it is so beautifully finished. The frame, the mat, everything about it. I actually, in the back of my brain, I want to say I think a man stitched this. So please, if you're watching, or a woman, just let me know who did it, because I just love your work. And Flights of Fancy, of course, is a pattern that looks like this, which was part of an antique sampler that I own. And then this was so clever. So this was from, let's see, this is from Elizabeth, who lives in New Zealand. And she took, which I talked about in the last video, but each person does a little different twist on the design. So she took my alphabet in the round, and she made it for a cousin's 50th wedding anniversary. stitched in the colors of the bridesmaids' dresses, and each initial is the initial of a family member. And I thought, well, isn't that a clever gift? So that actually is this pattern, which I've shown before. We've seen many, many clever things that people have done with this one. Let's see, what else do I have to show? Oh, I know. All right, this is not a good picture, but it's all I have. So this is the Fleur de Noel that I talked about that Holly did in the spring colors. And as I mentioned, she has that on her website. And that's what the colors that I did it in. I actually did it in both kind of a beautiful pink and a green. So I have two more booklets to show you. This is the Around Britain booklet, which we saw in Dory's finish. And this is the Stitching in the Round booklet. And then I have one more to show to you, and then we'll set those aside. Let's see if I can do it over here. This is actually, I'm always hesitant to show you this, but this is an out-of-print book. And this was from Sheila, and she took my grandparents' booklet, and I love what she did to it. So she said, I have 3 grandsons and 1 granddaughter. And in the original design, there were 2 little girls and 2 boys. So she made 3 boys in the piece and 1 little girl holding a balloon. And then instead of the wording that I had below it, she did a Proverbs, children are the crown of the angels. And I thought, oh, that's just so beautifully done and so beautifully framed. So thank you for that one. All right, now I always have to look at my piles on the desk to make sure I didn't forget anything. So I often give away prizes, and people send me their address and I send the prize off. And this, I think, was mailed almost a month ago to Kathy in New Jersey. And I'm sorry to say, Kathy, they returned it to me as an insufficient address. So if you're watching, please email me and tell me what, and we'll correspond back and forth and see if we can figure out what I did wrong. So I want to make sure that she gets what she wants. So now on to my next topic. Let me check my notes to see how I'm doing. So I received an overwhelming response to a design that I showed last week that is called Let It Snow, that is out of print. And one of our viewers had sent this. I think it might be on my Friends of JBW Designs page. And I kind of threw this out. I said, should I reprint it? And I had so many comments of people saying, oh, please reprint it, which I can do. I no longer have the files because this was done so long ago, but I can rechart it, I can restitch it, and I can reprint it. So that got me to thinking, because you know I have almost 500 patterns, maybe there are others in my collection that I should reprint. So I'd say out of the 500, probably over 200 are out of print. So I just pulled a few, and I thought, all right, I'm going to throw this out here, and you can vote and tell me, yes, no, there's not that much interest, because as you know, it's costly to do a reprint. So the ones I'm going to show you are, I have a book called Granddaughter with just a little girl in it, and it says, a joy and delight, a sweet blessing with love, Nana, or Grandma, whatever you want to put on it. And in addition to that one, there's also a little boy with sweet sentiments around the outside. I wish these frames were still available. They were so delightful. But you know what? You could take a wooden frame and paint it and put polka dots on it. Here's another one that would be for a child, and I think I must have done a lot of children's designs in the beginning, but this is called Choo Choo Train. I'm getting a little glare from my light here. Here's another one that could be for a little boy called Ready, Set, Go, with all kinds of vehicles on it. This is one that was kind of an interesting one. It was called Jolly Old St. Nick. And this was actually, the finish on this was quite unique. I put it on a Christmas placemat so that the children could leave a note to Santa and a plate with cookies. It says, "Dear Santa, cookies for you and a carrot for your reindeer." And there were 2 pockets. And I thought, well, maybe people will like that again. Another one that was very popular that is older was called A Wedding Announcement. And it was actually fashioned, I'm sorry, I'm getting the glare there. I'm going to try to get it in the right place. It was actually fashioned after what a wedding announcement might look like. So it just had a spray of flowers across the top, the names of the people who got married, the date they got married. And it has little tiny stitches in the background, so it almost looks like dotted Swiss. It's just a cross stitch in white. All right, here's another one with a snowman. This was called A Very Merry Winter. Next time I stitched this, I'd stitch it on a darker linen because in the snowman's body, it actually, is there an alphabet in there? No, it actually says, "Have a very merry winter." So it's very hard for you to see that. And then the last one is just another one that could be an anniversary or a wedding gift. And this was called With Love and Affection. And as I say, most of these are, oh my gosh, that last one I showed you was almost 20 years old. So we'll see what happens. I probably would only do 1 or 2 to start with, depending on the interest. So my last topic for today is going to be looking at old Christmas designs that I have done that are really part of a series. Now I have some that don't fall into that category, but then I have 2 that do, that I thought, oh, I think my viewers might be interested in that. So the first one I'm going to share with you is called A Scandinavian Christmas. And ironically, Holly showed this in her last video. She didn't show it finished, but she had bought the pattern. And so this is what the original pattern looked like. But when I was looking for models to share with you, I came across the same design in blue. And I actually love it in blue. I think that it is a design that could be kept out like all winter long. It just has an alphabet and reindeer and trees. And I used antique buttons all through here, which I think always makes such an interesting thing to add to a finish. You could do that with some of my other designs too. So that is a Scandinavian Christmas, and it looks like that. All right, set that aside. Okay, then the next one I want to show you is, I talked about the series that I'd done. I had done Oh Christmas Tree, Tidings of Joy, and this is the model for Joyeux Noel. These don't take too long to stitch, and although this is done over 1, you could absolutely do it over 2 on a red linen, or reverse the colors, red on white. I always love these finishes, and I always tell people, just study what my finisher did. It's not that hard to reproduce. It actually is just 1 band of fabric coming down one side, another equal band coming along the base, and then she just added trims. So you can see there's rickrack, there's ribbon, there is another tiny rickrack along here, another ribbon here, and then a bow with a button in the center. And I always thought that finish was just really, really elegant. All right, and then I have a couple more to show you. This is an older design. Let's see if I have the book here. And this is called, let me grab it, Peace on Earth. And again, I've stitched this over 1 and over 2. It's just finished. If you want to talk about the finishing, I can talk about that in one of my next videos. But it's basically making a triangle, putting rickrack underneath that triangle, and then mounting it on a triangular board with fabric on the back and fabric on the front. So this little tree, I'll show you what the booklet looks like, is made up of just all kinds of little Christmas symbols. There's a tree and a heart and tiny reindeer and a little house, all in the shape of a Christmas tree. So people really seem to like seeing the older designs. Many people weren't familiar with my work, and so to them this is new. Another series that I have, let's set that aside, is, and it's still, I'm getting regular orders on this. I always get such a kick out of it. It's actually called Baby's First Christmas. And there are 3 designs in this series. So there's a little stocking, and I always tell people, rather than putting Baby's First Christmas, you could put the baby's name and the birth date in there. I just think that would be so sweet. So there's a stocking in here, there is a gingerbread boy, and then there's a little rocking horse. And they're all finished with ruched ribbon, and you can see what the backing looks like. So a lot of us who are grandparents think, oh, that's a good idea. So Baby's First Christmas, this is what the book looks like. So that's one of the older series I want to show you. And now my last 2 series are Christmas Village and 'Twas the Night. So I often show you models that are worked over one, and I don't want to discourage you thinking that's the only way you could do it. So the models I pulled out today are the over 2 models that go with this design. So this design, let's see, actually I pulled the models there for it, and they're not in the right order, but that's okay. I'm going to show you the booklets and then I'll show you the models. So the first one is the 'Twas the Night series, and this is one that one of our viewers asked to see. So there are 4 books in the series, and each book of course has 3 designs in it, and it actually features just some of the phrases in the 'Twas the Night ornament series. Funny story, one lady wrote to me once and said, do you know you missed some of the lines? I thought, yes, I did, because some of the lines in the poem would be very, excuse me, 1 second. Very tricky to chart anything that looked even reasonably close to the line. So, excuse me, in the first one it says 'Twas the night, the stockings were hung, and the children were nestled. In the second series, it shows Away to the Window. Oh, you know what? I keep forgetting that in this series, look at the book. There's an error on that. There's 2 windows, but there isn't an error, thankfully, in the chart. So Away to the Window is one of them. A Miniature Sleigh and 8 Tiny Reindeer is the second one. And It Must Be St. Nick is the third one. Isn't that interesting that I just remembered that error? The third booklet has With a Sleigh Full of Toys, Down the Chimney St. Nicholas Came, and In a Twinkling I Heard on the Roof. And then the fourth booklet has His Eyes How They Twinkled, He Filled All the Stockings, and Happy Christmas to All. So I'm going to show you, you can work these as single ornaments, and then I'm going to show you the design worked as one design, and I'll tell you a little bit about how to get that. So I'm just going to quickly show you the ornaments. These are all worked over 2, finished with a ruched ribbon edging. So here's the Must Be St. Nick, and here's Down the Chimney. And here's our little Away to the Window. Here's the little children nestled in their beds. Here is The Stockings Were Hung. Here is the first one, 'Twas the Night, with the little, you can see Santa's sleigh going over the houses. Here is He Filled All the Stockings. Here's his eyes, how they twinkled. In a twinkling I heard on the roof. Here is a miniature sleigh and 8 tiny reindeer. Here is the sleigh full of toys. And the last one, Happy Christmas to all. So I thought, oh, I think you're going to love seeing the ones over too. Now I want to show you, I've shown this in the past, but it's been a while. I want to show you what this design looks like if you stitched it all as one piece. And so I have a PDF file with the layout of this design, the border that goes around it, and the spacing. And it's free. All you have to do is write to me, judy@jbwdesigns.com, and I'd be happy to send you the PDF file that you can print out for yourself. So you can see it has all of the 12 designs in order. So that is one thing that you can do with that particular pattern. And now I want to show you, this is what the file looks like. So you'll get a file like this. It doesn't have the patterns in it. It just has the border and the outline. And then you'll also be able to print out this, which is the chart for the border and all of the placement of the designs on the inside. So that's one of the series that I did a long time ago. Let's see, 2009. Yes, that's a long time ago, isn't it? And then the next series, whoops, I'm pushing this out of the way. All right. Oh my goodness, I tried to get everything together and sometimes I don't. All right, now as I'm gathering everything to show to you. So the second series that I want to share with you is Christmas Village. And this is very much like the Twas the Night series. So there are 4 booklets. Each booklet has 3 buildings in it. I won't tell you what they are because some of you have seen this before. You can see what they look like. So here's the 3rd one, and here's the 4th one. So I'm going to show you the individual ornaments first, and then we'll talk about if you wanted to do it as one piece, what does that look like? So here's the little barn. You can see the little sheep over here. I actually did those in pearls. Here is a chalet. Here is another chalet-looking building with Christmas trees. Here is the schoolhouse. Oh, let's see. Here is a Victorian house. I pulled these quickly, and some of them I have duplicates of. Here's the little barn with the homage carriage and the horse. Here's just another little log cabin type Christmas house. Here's a little gingerbread house. There is a church. This is a barn with a little water wheel on it. And I don't remember if I've gotten lost of what I'm showing you, and this is another one of the buildings. So, you know, you could think about the pattern and just say, oh, I'd like to do the church, the schoolhouse, and the barn, and only do a few of them, which would make darling ornaments. They're fairly small, so they don't really take that long to stitch, she says, but they really don't. I think they're the kind of ornament that you could finish in probably just a few nights. So what does that look like in total? So this is the model. Actually, I showed to you, I think a month or so ago, so I didn't want to pull that out again. But this is the layout for what this Christmas Village looks like. And so you would receive with, again, a free PDF file, the layout of how I did the buildings, and then the wording, which was, I will honor Christmas and try to keep it in my heart all the year. So I thought you might enjoy seeing those individual ornaments and all the other series. I hope so. So I have gone on so long. This is probably my longest ever one. But I have a few more things to tell you about. First of all, my shop of the week, of course, is Dying to Stitch, where I went to the retreat. and you can see her address here. Maybe you can take a screenshot of it, and you can always call them. They have many of my patterns. Actually, they have quite a few of my older patterns, and their email is dying2stitch@aol.com. So please contact them if you're in need of anything. Then my next topic is I chose 3 prizes from last week of people who had made comments. So you can choose any of the patterns that I shared with you today. I always try to list those in the notes below. Julie H. is our first winner. Mary Gilmart is our second. And Heather and is our third winner. So just email me and I'd be happy to send out a gift to you. My quotation this week, I always try to stress kindness, is from Diane, who sent it to me in one of the comments a couple weeks ago, and it's by Mark Twain. Kindness is the language with which the deaf can hear and the blind can see. And how true is that? So what do I have to tell you? My email is judy@jbwdesigns.com. I'll put it in the notes. I have an Instagram account, judy.whitman. I have a Friends of JBW Designs Facebook page, and that's where a lot of our inspiration comes from our viewers. They post pictures of my designs that they have done, and it's so much fun to see what colors they chose and what fabrics they chose. So thank you, as always, for watching and being such wonderful friends. Hopefully I'll see you in a few weeks. Bye-bye.